This whole 6, right? You got some more shells for it though? Why? What you want, $150 for this? I got 100, man. What up? Good looking.
Hey yo, Moose, get the V, son.
Yeah,
come on,
yo, hey yo, fuck it. I ain't thinking about that for present. It's the way I had your necklace ripping. Gun high, you and I see you with a chest incision. Got shot in his Benz, that's his breakfast sticking. Stupid, I'm way too stressed for chillin'. And honestly, I hate the hurt, but we stuck in poor. Hope is gone, I'm choosing wrong. There's no doubt in my mind that I hate this worse. I'ma break grams down just to break this curse. Paralyze one of y'all, you can date the nurse. With his gauge like a chain, how I sit on my neck. Follow fiends to the money, who got it the best? I ain't have gun aim, no kind of finesse. First 3 hit low toward the top of the steps. One resource, not shine, who I gotta impress. Had a 6-shot gauge, then we got the connects, nigga. Ain't no way that I won't get paid. It's too long, I cut the steel with a switchblade. You will die for your money, that's a big trade. And it's a big gun, big shell, big
I got some sleeves and some cocaine, I'm turning to cheese. Fiends lighted in the breeze, said it's straight for me. I'm on the scene with my mask on, pillows I scream. Made 20 off a beta, still got 10 in my jeans. I'm in the kitchen with a sniffy, he be mixing the steam. I got a blender for beginners, blaze wasn't for beef. I mean, I blend this shit down, made the rockiest rings. I feel like Rocky on the corner, knock him out with the lean. The way they shoot it in the arm, the shit should come with a beam. I'm buying everybody food stamps and come with the cream. My dope stamp saying facts and I'm in the machine. I sold a junkie 3 bundles, he was bumping the cream. I'm bumping clean, yo, this nose candy come with the wings. You make the 100 times, it come with the flings. You probably sleeping with a rapper, yo, it come with the strings. Until this shit get ugly, it's a wonderful thing. You know that? Goddamn, Bob, this nigga's the fucking man, son. Nigga, I just sold 2 sleeves in 2 hours, nigga. What up, yo? Ha! Can't wait till 3 a.m., man. Whoa, that's when the fucking crackheads come out, man. Let's sell the shit out.
The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of cultured brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally. Pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of insightful craft work that stands to build through any confrontation born to be. Yet his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly and uses his ears to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home-sewn garment, the bodyguard with the build, the true and living God stepping in score, Sunya's Allah, a.k.a. Skillustrator, low. And we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media, where every intrigue will have its own show. Every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. And this show is about my element of hip-hop, the writer of art on art and science on music, as I like to call it. The only show in history on this hip-hop writer element that I, a veteran of over 20 years, helped pioneer. You know, like as I like to start out every show with an addendum of the show before, about, you know, I went really in on the dark ages, about the 2000s and how it leads into this. And it seems like the story has a happy ending. Seems like it has a happy ending because the music is getting better. The mucus has been washed out. And so many artists and so many careers are vibrant, though. You know, there are so many. It's a joy to be a journalist, to be a writer in the music, to be someone enjoying the music, because there's so many great artists in their prime, you know, in their prime of writing, lyrics, you know, producers now, especially producers, their drums are getting livelier, they're getting dynamic, they're not feeling constricted, so you're not getting the same old, you know, breaks. Some of my complaints, even in the middle of this decade, about break beats and the overuse of certain old break beats, you know, to capture and be revivalists, have been kind of tossed away for, you know, more of a more natural live, drum nature that is questioning the EQing, questioning the drum pattern, and still keeping it boom bap where, these MCs really find their groove in it, so it's real exciting. I'm going to spend the bulk of the show talking about a lot of the new releases that I heard, and many of them I heard today. And if I can get to it, though, I really want to just go off the head in this massive list of music that, for my collection, has numbered over 300 albums already, and just try to go through about, just listing and quick notes on some of these records that absolutely I would consider in my reel of 2019. What a loaded year, And just as I thought, just as I said in 2018, and I said in my book, as far as news bits, I want to get into some quick commentaries. I got to start with actual real news. I had the honor of hosting the Classic Storm, DJ Toshi's Classic Storm Radio 12th year anniversary last week, and it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun to see people that appreciate the music, appreciate what Toshi has done for hip hop music, and bringing a podcast for over 12 years, dominating this decade, being a stalwart in this decade, really bringing it. You know what I mean? And it takes a lot to do all that research. It takes a lot to put on these Rock the House shows that he and Doc Ock, and I consider all the Classic Storm Radio anniversaries to be a celebration of Doc Ock and what he and Toshi also do for the Rock the House events at the Delancey in downtown Manhattan. That is nearly 95% of the time free shows of the best hip-hop acts you'll find. And I think, what's funny is that nearly every single MC I'm probably going to mention, a large chunk, nearly all the chunks of them we've either interviewed or they have performed at Rock the House in some way, and to the artists that came out, Rim, dynamic performance. He literally got up on stage, rhymed. You know what I mean? After every song, he just would look at Toshi and go, next! And then do the next song and go, next! And then when he was done, he just bounced. You know what I mean? Just stellar, you know what I mean? And Elo Kush and John Robinson came on and were mad live and did songs from their Ebony Ronin and were killing it. Rhyme Wrecker and Phantom of the Beat, Rhyme Wrecker came on and did a couple of tracks. Just great stuff, you know what I mean? It was just, and I say the night was capped off with, DJ sets by DJ, Crazy DJ Bizarro, but also an incredible set. I mean, there's nothing, every set he does is incredible. He's just an incredible showman. Percy P, It's always great to see that those rhyme linguistics are not like just some studio, setup and stuff. He really is that dexterous, you know what I mean, and that amazing. So, I want to thank all those brothers that came through and those artists, you know what I mean? And, as another great news tidbit, it's just a real joy to see Thurston Howell III continue to show up in all of these Polo Ralph Lauren ads, and he's on the Polo app. If you have the Polo app, he's featured in it. There's a commercial for an extended commercial and feature for the 5-horse rugby shirt, and you see Thurston Howell in there talking about how he styled it and stuff, and I've talked about this before, but it's just a joy to see Thurston Howell III, representing where he belongs. But let me quickly get into some commentaries because they'll be quick and be useful, and then I want to read something from my new book, The Filtered Reel. The first commentary is what everybody was dying to hear from me about Eminem and Nick Cannon. It sucks. It's some of the worst things I've ever heard in my life, though. It's embarrassing. Like, I feel embarrassed for Nick Cannon. You know what I mean? He's not good. And you know what makes rapping so fake is that when you rap, you have to rap with braggadocio. You have to rap with like a stamina, like you're the best, and it's just embarrassing because Nick Cannon really sucks. I mean, he really, really sucks, you know? And it comes off a Fat Joe album, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. It comes off a Fat Joe album where, I don't know. I'm not an Eminem stan or a casual fan to say, you know, I realize that it's just auctioneering, and I don't feel it at all. So I don't know where the hell he got this idea that on Fat Joe's record he had to diss him. But I gotta tell you, man, it's hard to make Fat Joe's latest album worse than it is. But boy, he almost ruined that Griselda album, you know? That's why I said last week I didn't really explain myself. I said it was the best sequencing I've heard in a long time, though, because they just put that I think the song's called Bang Bang or something like that, but the remix at the end, and man, it was horrible. Griselda, all three of them, mainly them three, right? Benny the Butcher, Conway, the Machine, and West Side Gun rapping, you know, and I think to me, all three can get a little bit stale for either content, their stylistics get a little overdrawn, but when they're all three rhyming together and passing the baton, it makes for a real great show. You know, and unlike most people, I think that those three MCs are better together than they are as solo MCs. Because in this day and age, to be a solo MC, you really have to have a lot of content. Because MCs are releasing stuff every single couple of months. So look at artists that are really dope, like S.STREET or Ito, that have had the stellar years that we're thinking about. Or people like S.STREET. They release stuff where you'll get like 5 or 6 projects. So let's say it averages out to maybe a project every 2 months, which is a lot to really absorb. You know what I mean? If all these good MCs, which I'm saying that there's so many and keep naming them all, that really makes it very difficult to catch up with all these guys. But the MCs like I mentioned, Napoleon the Legend, another example, they have a lot of content. They have a lot of ideas to share. You know, however they're doing it, reading, studying, thinking, actual practicing, whatever they're doing, they are true solo MCs. They have too many ideas to just wrap up and share the mic for extended periods of time. Whereas for me, I gotta say, like, all three of those MCs in Griselda are dope MCs, but for the amount of output that the typical solo MC, which includes them, that they put out, and MCs of the caliber put out, I like them more as a group, and that's why I was more happy and enjoyed this record. Because just when I was getting mad, not mad, that's a bad word for it, just when I was getting tired of hearing do 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 do, and then the 50th ad lib. I mean, there's some songs where like he's really overdosing on the do do's, you know? I'm like, he was doing it for like, it felt like, I know I'm wrong here, but it felt like he was doing it for a minute. Like he was going do 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 do, and I was like, is he gonna say something? And then they passed the baton to Conway, and then, you know, okay, all right. Then they passed just when you need some real lyrical cleverness, then comes Benny the Butcher, who really has a lot of cleverness. But because their content is so strict, and they don't really talk about the drug tales in the context of the everyday man. Like, what are you doing besides that? Or how does that affect every aspect of life? And I'm going to get into that because there are MCs that do that. They don't do that, though. And they make great music. So that I'm happy with. You know what I mean? Because they unlike a lot of other MCs, I feel like the Griselda MCs fulfill their potential. I don't listen to their records and think that there's something else. But boy, their sequencing really saved their album, though, because I can delete Eminem and just, go back to the beginning, because that was terrible. Oh man, like it's like imagine you watching a heavy metal concert, you know what I'm saying? And then in the middle of the song, Bobo the Clown just does a whole Step and Fetch It routine in the middle. And you'd go, what does this have to do with what I'm watching? Like I'm watching a heavy metal concert here, And that's what Eminem at the end of that Griselda album feels like, you know what I mean? It's almost like Porky Pig went in and it goes, that's all, folks. It was silly as hell and it was just corny. I don't know why he keeps doing that. And the stuff he gave Fat Joe was just the same. And, because he's supposedly an MC of worth, he gets to do extended bars, and now you have to hear all this stuff for, a lengthy period of time. There's no way I'm going to follow this Eminem versus Nick Cannon beef, And there's one Vignant I came with, I tweeted, a great music journalist is often an incomplete historian. To be a great journalist, I'm going to have to ignore some of this crap and be an incomplete historian. So I apologize for the future of my works not being complete and not being a complete historical record for some of the worst music of our time. These are my preemptive apologies. No one can go back in time, though, and treat me like Miles Dyson. I didn't allow a monster to live by cataloging it. But yo, there was something else I saw on Twitter too. I want to make a commentary about it. Some rapper that isn't really good. He's not really good. I'm not going to mention his name. And he often goes around making on Twitter because other people retweet it and comment on it, and so I end up seeing it in my timeline. And he often comments stuff about what he thinks about rappers and stuff, and it's always on some rappers today. They're in the community of Twitter, though, where they're going to comment about stuff. But he comments on stuff where it's got that subtle dart in it. You know what I'm saying? Where like, oh, this is good, but, it's not like what I could do and stuff. And then, you go to hit what he has, and his stuff is weak. His stuff is weak. You know what I mean? It's like a guy that says, I don't like Shaq. He doesn't really hit his free throws. He's not really a complete player. And then you watch him, though, and he's Jared Dudley. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm looking at. And it leads to me a commentary that I feel like rappers, you want to love hip-hop music, just talk about the music that you love. Don't talk about other rappers and how they're not that good and other people's catalogs are better and stuff like that. Keep your mouth shut. Because that's not really your job. And I can say that because that's my job. But at the same time, it should be your work to make it should be your job to make stellar work that when people listen to it, they say, his stuff really ranks up with these guys that are going commercial like Griselda and popping off with hardcore rap in the mainstream. Or this is as good as the guys that are really blowing up like Rome Streets and Ito. And this guy's not even close. You know what I mean? And it sounds like a joke when I see a rapper talk about people's diverse content and they talk about one piece of information only. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. So I just had to throw that out there. You know what I mean? Listen, if you're gonna talk about music in detail, remember whether you're a commoner, you're a fan in this social media world. The way you have true worth, though, is having that earth, wind, and fire. You know what I mean? You got to have the reasons that these records are here, the reasons that you see the understanding. We complain about hip-hop a lot, so give it some real reasons. You know what I mean? But with that aside, those are my commentaries. I want to take a moment to talk about something in my book. My book, The Filtered Real Essays from the Invisible Renaissance, is really catapulting off the work of 2018 to give you a picture of what this decade has been like. And what really makes the work part of an element, where I can say it's an element of hip-hop, is really the creative poetry and prose that I started to inject into the regular writing on the details of the music and the stories of the music. And throughout the Filtered Reel, it's not a main focus. These essays are mainly about the science of this music, but throughout, this poetry and prose is throughout. And I want to read you something that is exclusively in this book. You know what I mean? It's for what I thought was the best record of 2018. An example of the stellar career that Ka has had. His album called under the name The Hermit and the Recluse, which is him and Animos, the producer, and called Orpheus versus the Sirens. But it's a long prose that I wrote that went along with this piece, and I called it The Places, the Horrors, the Leaders. The places, the horrors, the leaders. The recluse folds in his sound to drown the world in a melody. The hermit pens another pensive text, poetry or prose. How long depends all on how we hold the notes of sorrow, or how the aphorism be followed, by beauty's dress or by understanding's golden shade. The hermit closes the windows and shuts the door to form this metamorphosis, shuts out this world as he wills a learning to incline demise into the comforts of tomorrow's world. For the babies are the greatest, as we were just the latest. Our emotions are their latency, so the crimes cannot be forgotten. They will be arrested on the page, the recluse forges, an orchestration of his mind's breaks for the space of what was done to now be part of the tales of what is made. Son of man stories, revolving from scroll to suckling foal, stampede the fold to a standing soul, the rebirth of mind. The place is in the mind, and the mind is in the skull of Brownsville concrete, where the worst have developed the palate to be special, all scarred with the mathematics of rolled vice. A dive for your thoughts. The places, the horrors, the leaders. Those of the Tao are ready to mourn, for the sheath will cradle sharpness for the last time today, and the fear of death has become a lost gift to give the children someday. When the streets have sidewalks, the luck embracing stave off pitching and snitching and study the history of our future. We founders of our fortunateness remember reading stills of smirks and snoots with shots of colonial rum and revolution cigars. Fidel versus the infidels of assets. Hannibal upon his elephants, or Clemente flown into the waters of honor by the phoenix. Ushiba at his revelations, or Genghis firing into continuity. Wondering, writing one's own history, how the Confucian ammunition seems to load forever, or that the champagnes of Che never seem to pour. If the recluse will absolve it all, then who will orchestrate to his mind's breaks? Breaks he told an old historian once, a hermit of letters himself, the ones that were all Melvin Blissing, enablers of educators, the makers of lettered roads. May the drum of this recluse pound out a talk from the hermit, and these horrors that color the spaces between cobblestones will become the grip to grind the steps of a hermit traveling in papers. The places, the horrors, the leaders. The table is interrupted by meals, sustenance that forces the constantly invading literature to ghetto itself. The chair, worn by the weight of manifested thoughts, has its legs wobble when the leader sips smooth excitement. As San Mateo Yerba Mate sits as safely as can by the literature with its grounds, once steeped, now curling to the cup's bottom. Word is bond. This last maneuver will be the greatest. So remember in perfection the ways chosen by those once sought upon in the scrolled leaves by authors gone. That is, hermits prior. The best knower is never not a hermit, dispelling his heart into the lands of children. The heart, an overflowing vessel built of care, filled with the essential air-like materials and needing to infect the world with its ado. Be it insight, so it be out of mind, as the God has built the self-savior. Leaving his confine, the leader, as sun is, sets to maneuvers so consistent, its pleasantry and intensity just may be forgotten. Finally, step outside once the weapons of a written window are wrote. Warriors compile. They all can peer the way now. All so simple, swinging a freelance soul stenciled in an edutained stance. He only shares an ethic he lives. Yeah, that was a piece from for that last essay on that was up in that major group of the Reel of 2018. That's exclusively in the book, and I focus. I these pieces that I write about, these albums, the more I love them, the more that they spark more ideas, though. And Ka's work is stellar to me. But usually I spend too long riffing on some topic that you love or you hate, and I never get to talk about the music. And there's so much music, so I want to get into music that I've been loving, and a lot of recent music that I didn't get a chance to hear. So I'm gonna start with a free album, a Name Your Price album that you can get on Nujericans. Nujericans, Nujericans. Had the pleasure of interviewing these brothers for Classic Storm Radio, two Boricua brothers from Jersey, thus Nujericans. I've one of those artists that I first witnessed them live, and they were so live that I was awed. I was thrown back to how live they were, and it was just exciting to see, because it's very hard to I'm very desensitized to the hip hop live show, and not only just because I've seen a lot of bad MCs and bad rappers over all these years, but just because it's such a simple format. There's no instrumentation. When I watch live bands like a great salsa band, or I watch a great soul or funk band or a reggae band, I'm usually enthralled by the playing, the musicianship that I'm watching them play instruments, and I end up staring, and I'm not really watching that singer, even though I'm hearing them, and they're secondary a lot of times. And with hip hop, the MC is really has to capture you in ways, because he doesn't always have the band, unless you're the Roots, and that's a anomaly in itself. And Black Thought, I've seen him with or without a band, and he GOAT level on that, GOAT level. And with Nujericans, the music was just as fulfilling as the live performance of it. But on this short album, it's called PBS, Puerto Riqueño Barrio Sound, and mad clever, and they rock the PBS logo, but with the Jibaro straw hat, and it's just dope logo. A lot of people don't know, the duo Joey Dynamite and Soul Zales. Soul is a really great artist, so it's not surprising that another album they have has great artwork. But the production is diverse. Different producers, including Joey Dynamite on one, and a real nice frenetic energy they give off. So if you're thinking about what I'm saying about a live show, they give you kind of that live show on this short LP, and it's a simple LP. It's really a battle bar fest, and really the type of songs I could see them add to their live repertoire, like PBS and Yada Yada, where you got loud, chaotic treble smashes with the layered chorus, on the former PBS, and the addictive crowd caller on the latter, Yada Yada. But it's essentially a quick battle bar builder, really fulfilling of their integrity, as on Seamless Effort, that track, and it really gives a taste of the depth too on songs about their struggles as Spix in Paris. And dope album, and just like, one of the overused words people always talk about is classic, but if you're really analyzing the music, one of the words that could get lost is the idea of a sleeper album, because a sleeper album is something that was really dope, but like people didn't really check for it. There's so many of them because it's just overloaded with greatness. That I think is one of them in this last month or two. But go into a juggernaut. Let's talk about a juggernaut album. One of the definitive albums that you already know has to shoot up into the top albums of the year. And if it wasn't, it would be an absolute disappointment. And that's Rock Marciano's Marcialago. Of course, it's one of the best albums of the year. And I'll just start off with a quote. He says, "I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but I'm a stubborn mule. I refuse to coon for some effing views." And he said that on Tom Chambers, And Murcielago is essentially a celebratory album, you know, for somebody for whom I've called the stylist of the era. In my book, I list him as that stylist of this invisible renaissance, and I give you reasons why. Not only there, but in pieces about certain works like Behold the Dark Horse and his album with DJ Muggs, Chaos. I give you the examples and the reasons, some of the reasons why when I cover those albums. But this one is really like, yo, there's not as much experimentation as like the previous albums of last year, and it's more like in his wheelhouse. And that's why I say it's celebratory, because it's styles of production that he has developed exactly as the way you expect it, and the braggadocio, the stylistics, and you know, the you know, what I call the ejaculates he throws out at all you custies and hoes, are all there, you know, just as you expected, but done with precision. You know what I mean? And you know, and he really defines stuff that I can't disagree with. Like when he says on Joe Jackson, "I'm what the culture was missing. I'm a cult figure." And I don't know if hip hop was missing a cult figure or if it needs one, but he definitely is one in many respects. And just some thoughts, random thoughts on the album. I think immediately, like what was really openly progressive on the album, the way he used that high horn on Bomb Shelter and just focused on that. And I got to highlight, you know, I can't continue without highlighting an MC that really hasn't released that much work this year, but his work with Ito, the Heather Gray, and his own album that he had with Deuce, Willie the Kid is just really, really amazing to me. You know, on straight loops, as this seems, you know, it's this album it's real nice to see, you know, in general, that, you know, with Rock and with Willie, that you know, it's so nice to see that an MC can actually find a great pocket easily. You know what I mean? See, let me give you this. Rock Marciano is really hard to bite, because biters in this decade that have bitten him, they see the ease of looping. You know what I mean? What he's doing seems easy. It's just looping. And on some of the albums where he got sloppy, right? Like, and it comes off dope sloppy, like especially the first Rosebud's Revenge. But biters see the ease of the looping. So what gets lost is the difficulty after you achieve. You know, so you achieve finding a great loop to loop, a great dig to loop. You know what I mean? And then you think that, you know, what Rock doesn't do is that he doesn't use the ideal pocket in there, you know? He uses his own pocket. And he's got a chopped and phrase flow, so it's his flow that really is the production work, that's more chopped than the sample. So what do we praise about our hip hop production? The dig, the sample, and then the chopping of the sample. But if you listen to the way Rock Marciano raps, it's literally his voice and the way he goes into a different pocket he's always almost a different pocket than you expect. And definitely not the easy pocket. He rhymes chopped. You know what I mean? And it's almost like he's the sample. You know what I mean? It wasn't the loop of the music, it's his own voice. That's the actual sample that's being flipped here. You know what I mean? It's a real ingenious way to look at it, but it's the way I've been hearing it, you know? And with Willie the Kid, you know, the way he rhymes, I got to make some notes on it. Willie the Kid rhymes with like this layered style where like in this song where like every other 2 to 3 words are rhymed, and it's in unison with what Rock is doing. You know, because it gives a chop flow effect, but Willie does it with a lot of smoothness. So he goes, I'm unfazed, I ain't blink yet, I'm unimpressed, a henchman, tool for flinching, the crib like Benson, cook bass on the Bunsen burner, you just a butler on the cusp of the house nigga, a stool pigeon. And the way he rhymes those cuts, they're in a different flow and much more in the typical pocket than what Rock Marciano's doing. So it matches, but it's not. So not to get too how to rap here, but the syllable matching is what Willie does so good. And he's usually giving you the syllable match, and it goes like to 4 to 8s and back to 4s. So dope. It's really dope. You know what I mean? I think Willie the Kid, he often releases works that are too short, and if he made some more, at least 30-minute albums, we get to see him explore themes that match the massive talents and persona that he's giving off on these very short EPs and on these features that he has. The other guest on Marcialago, like Knowledge the Pirate, on that ill track switch on Tom Chambers, because Tom Chambers starts off good, but it really goes into another nice track as well. I've always thought, as on Knowledge, just like on Knowledge's his own album that came out this year, he's got a great command of the space and the music of the sample as well. His voice floods the rest of the track that's left empty. And that's hard to do. Most people can't do that. And as far as features, then there's can't mention anything without Ka, on Ephesians. To me, as I read from what I wrote for him, to me, I consider him the MC of this decade, and just quoting some of his bars is good enough. He says, "And our fields was no meals, just forks in the road." Come on, I'm gonna say that again. And our fields was no meals, just forks in the road. Then he goes like this. This is all in the same verse, one verse. Seems the team had good genes, but wanted better denim. Oh boy, that's like a two double entendres mixed together. This is dope. And then the ending bars, the way they end is just powerful. Was told as a youth, become a mute. If ever in custody, say nothing. Once you get aggravated with all that's fabricated, come F with me. And the way he tones it at the end is just perfect stuff. The rugged. Smooth, rugged, sinister, poetry, just poetry. And but where you really can explore this Marcialago is really through the music. And musically, nothing surprises because, as I said, his style of production is constantly bitten. Marciano's music is in his solo career that begins with Mark Berg is really evolutionary to begin with, not revolutionary. RZA, Bronze, and even Kanye, I gotta give Kanye credit, explored the soul in these isolated ways already, where you're isolating soul vocals, where that is the prime aspect of what's being highlighted. They're the ones that really did this to the highest degree throughout the 2000s. And however, the extreme version, the complete isolation of that soul sample, is really the evolution of innovation that rock gives you. So unlike Rosebud's Revenge, a great LP with great digs and MCing too, but where the great samples sometimes drown his and other guest vocals, like I felt like in Rosebud's Revenge, I really loved the album, but vocals were almost drowned sometimes. You know what I mean? And with Marcialago, the real development is that you don't get any of these problems. There's no drowning out. The equalizing, the pitches, everything is perfect. And what's interesting is that the cadence of Rock's flow is something I have to accustom myself to a lot of times when I hear it, though, after a long time, because he had a mixtape early this year with Alchemist, and that was decent. Then he had the prequel, which was 6 songs, which are very good, and then there was nothing from him. And because there's so much to listen to, repeating isn't done as often as you would like with any record now. It doesn't matter. If you're really trying to cover this music, you're struggling to get proper repeats, and your first and second and third listens have to be real quality, And what I really like in this Marcialago is that Rock isn't really slowing down his flow, which is really, actually, when you think about it, how the influence rappers from Marciano, the rappers that are influenced by Rock Marciano, they actually slow down their flows to actually catch a pocket in the type of production that he's making when they bite it. So when they're influenced or when they're biting Rock Marciano, they actually have to slow down their tempo. Whereas Rock Marciano, he's so comfortable in the off pocket that he makes in these samples. He's not really slowing down the energy levels, you know. And if you really think about it, I find that really surprising. And listen to it again. You know what I mean? It'll lead him to really let him to do things like letting him drop a long bar, like a long bar, and then give it an extended pause after, as he does. If you listen to they got a video for that song already, Richard Gere. If you listen to Richard Gere, watch the video for Richard Gere, and really focus on the bars, you can hear him take longer than expected pauses for you to hear the punchline, to revel in it, and it becomes, you know what I'm saying, those ejaculates, like he's just like put, you know, spitting them out, and let him sit there for the custies and hoes that he's rapping to, you know. And that's something that highlights the lines and lets him revel in the success of his endeavors, literally. You know what I mean? And again, this is really a self-acknowledgement record for all he's done this decade, you know? And it's done powerfully. For me, Rock Marciano is a top 5 essential MC of this invisible renaissance, this 2010s. And I personally think if you're a collector of this era, you need to have at least Reloaded, which I still think is his signature work. You have to have Mark Berg, what set it off. You should have Rosebud's Revenge 1 and 2. I think you should have Behold the Dark Horse and Chaos, because those are the albums where he really experiments. And those are the albums you're going to look to and say what he led into. And you should have this one because it closes it out this decade. I'm not even mentioning others that are good. You know what I mean? Like Marcy Boku and others. What is it? Pimpire Strikes Back, something like that. But 6. Let me see. 1, 2. Reloaded. Mark Berg. Rosebud's Revenge. Rosebud's Revenge 2. Behold the Dark Horse. Chaos. And then Marcielago. Those God albums you should have. You know what I mean? Now get to work if you don't have them, though. You know what I mean? Since I go from a great album, let's go to a shitty album. Let's go to some crap, all right? This way it gives us a flip, you know what I mean? Fat Joe and Dre, Family Ties. There's a video out for one of the songs, and I lost some of my life, though, watching it. And, you know, typical R&B-like production. Terrible. But I'm using Fat Joe and the Family Ties album to make some points. Not really to talk about this album. I don't expect you to get it. Go on YouTube, listen to it. If you like it, well, I don't know what to say. But using this album as a tool for certain thoughts I have. I see this a lot. And I see this more so because, you know, if you listen to MCs, good and bad, they're always on their give their roses while they're alive, this and that. So it could be the reason why I see people always saluting Fat Joe every time he releases something for being a great guy. I'm not saying he isn't. Who keeps him and his team, right, paid with hits. And by hits, I mean badly made songs that everyone dances to and become cult classics in Miami, right? And I think this is a part of the problem with hip-hop. You know, we have to be a little disassociated on purpose when we think about music, because there are great MCs that have put out works and I was willing to criticize them. And it might be, you know, and it might be funny, jabbing, and cruel, but it's got what I call the earth, wind, and fire, the reasons, essentially. And it's still, to me, I'll say and stand by it as fair. That said, Joe, who I think is a very dope MC, you know, has been crossing over since the dark ages, those 2000s, and is one of the greatest examples as an addendum to what the dilution of the 90s MC looked like. You know what I mean? And his work and the spoiled blessings that come with working music as product that way. Because we can't say anything else about Joe without saying that he has been reaping the benefits of making worse music. Crime really does pay. You know what I mean? Crime pays. And his career expanded as opposed to Coil, as I often do listening to these albums that kept coming out. Potential Wasted, a good track here, a whole bunch of loaded filler there, pop filler, cliche songs of the day. This decade's new pop rappers, they go straight into the pop trap in its worst form. But with Fat Joe, if you study him, you can see how he holds to the transition of it all. He still has to actually rap, and Fat Joe still can rap somewhat. By rap, I mean what Fat Joe has good. Hold a powerful voice, keep in a respectful pocket. He's got a decent enough flow, and express emotion. And the things he really only could do and did very well, he did and still does, as evidenced by Digging in the Crate's last group album, the very, very strong Digging in the Crate Studios in 2016. So there's no excuse for him not making great work every time. But Family Ties, I gotta say, is a typical weak pop album that will let people pretend rich, smoke hookah hedonistically while they get fades in the said Dykeman Street Barbary Club. You know what I mean? But for those that care to see the differences in great music and how the actual format of pop versions of hip-hop constrict, check out and listen to the sloppiness that's Heaven and Hell, the way it uses Wendy Reen's After the Laughter. And I'm not snitching here because those great dry snitchers of WhoSampled.com, they have snitched on all of Wu-Tang 36 Chambers album a long time ago. Everybody knows those. You know what I mean? They've been paid for a long time ago. But it really highlights how the drum and bass of the trap beat format never seems to marry well with actual samples of music of a longer measure. And that's why like a soul sample sounds very, very awkward when you hear stuff like this. You know what I mean? And it sounds like the track was made like a sandwich. Let me describe this sandwich for you. You can cue up the song, take a moment, cue it up, check it out. But this sandwich is like literally one slice Wendy Reen whale chops, then the burnt burger of Fat Joe's loud rap, because he has to yell through it all because it's overloaded, right? So it's a burnt burger. Then you have the iceberg lettuce call and response flossing, right? No real nutritional value there. Then you have the odd and annoying 1,000 beats per second egg timer hi-hat pickles thrown in, all wrapped in a cheesy sauce snare and a slice of crusted overbass drumming that tops the sandwich. It's a sandwich that falls apart the minute you pick it up, and you're left with a bad taste for something they could have done much better with. And when you say, look, it sounds good, it's because Wendy Reen's sample always sounds dope. And if you want to see, what's funny? Is on this very album where you could hear how a big bass drum beat can actually be made in quality hip-hop. Okay? And the song I'm thinking about on this album, Family Ties, is Pulling. Yes, I know. It has Lil Wayne on it, though, so there's demerits there already. But if you listen to the song, it sticks to musical backdrops on these type of drums, but they keep it simple. See, to me, the trap drum format can only hold very, very simple instrumentation. So here, it just has like menacing strings, a very quick menacing string, and some keyboard tinkering that's very loud and pierces through, as they often do. So these type of bass drum tracks haven't been figured out for greater music sampling measures, but they actually have a good rhythm as seen on this song Pulling. It's really a dope rhythm. And the pocket is groove ready, and the song works. It's a dope song, actually. I was surprised by it. And because the album really is not good to me. And it's funny, this song would have actually worked on the Digging in the Crates album as well. Who knows? It might have been a beat that was for that, but he took it. But essentially, it's an album that you'll listen, you'll have fun with it, and it'll be discarded, And I won't even make too much mention about the blasphemy of using Hector Lavoe's classic anything level, but his classic Aguanile chant on a terrible track with Cardi B. I mean, it's just blasphemy. You know what I mean? It can't. You know what I mean? Boricuas cringed everywhere. You know what I mean? All over the world. But we played them. Now onto another album, Riggs and Mooch, The Way Out. We played one of their tracks in the beginning. It's track 2 on the album, and I expected this album to be dope. It's got a great cover. It's produced by Big Ghost, so you know it's gonna have good samples. It's gonna have interesting samples. It's gonna have good beats, and I've been slowly impressed by Mooch. I was really feeling Mooch and Radicus's album, New York State Renaissance. I really liked Riggs's Roach Gutter Slums out of the albums that they made the most. Those are the ones I like the most. And yet this album blew me away even more. So I was really happy to hear it. It shot up from, Mooch has done Dopanese with Gallo Point, and that was dope. New York State with Radicus, I said. Riggs had a album Headshots with Dark Low, which I didn't care for musically, but I loved the way Riggs rapped on it. And to surprise me even more, really, it was because Moogs and Rich are really brothers. They've known each other since childhood, as you learn in the album, and they have a real incredible synergy. And the synergy is not like the Smith and Wesson back and forth, or the Rain goes back and forth, or like that. The synergy is most evident because they can keep to song themes. These aren't songs of bars. These are real song concepts. And so it's actual songwriting on the trials and the street life and the repercussions, and they take moments in time. So I'll explain. You have tracks like Deadbeats detailing his youth. So they'll detail the struggle, but from that angle, in that moment in time. They have fallouts about the bond between brothers, how it could be broken and how they get repaired. Talking about, they talk about their struggles, but through the perspective of summer school and having to do summer school all over again. They give you detailed visuals of all these illicit narcotics trading is on re-up. The stress surrounding them on another day. But it's done uniquely. It's done cleverly. And Mooch and Riggs, they have very unique voices, you know what I mean? And very different voices, which contrast nicely. And they even salute Ray and Ghost as inspiration. And they mention how, what they learned in the Wu-Tang Saga, how Ray, actually was trying to kill Ghost. Now they became the best of brothers. And that was on Fallout. Just stellar stuff, man. You don't see albums nowadays where like the bottom half of the album has great songs and great concepts, It's one of the best albums this year. And that bond, again, between Riggs and Mooch is dope. A lot of MCs dominating steadily throughout this year, and it seems like the difference is that Mooch came on so strong at the end, whereas Riggs was consistent. But this one catapults them both, But Big Ghost isn't producing with soul samples here. He's producing with melodic and diverse orchestrations over a very slow tempo boom bap. And it's just pensive toughness. It's a beautiful LP, you know what I mean? Last one I'm going to get into. Just going to read straight up some of the things. Actually, let's see how much I can get to. Let's try to get 2 more in here. Rome Street's Joyeria, the jewelry, all that jewelry. I only had really one good listen, but that's enough because Rome Streets is a great. And it's the drive through the dealer hells that he goes through that is so intense. He's so good at this. And I just finished talking about Riggs and Mooch, but the truth is that the crime rhyme MC is leading the way into this next decade. It isn't their stories, but the way they capture drive and the experiences that pull out the understanding of the nature and others at moments, then to moments now, toward moments they will be as an MC, as an artist, as a black man living, all encompassed, and all overlaying for Rome Streets in like this really dynamic stream of conscious, journey that he takes you through. So when a seeming battle track comes on as the horn devastation of Vagabonds Don't Die, the anger is furious and witted in word choices and power delivery. And by the way, his power delivery and pitch is probably one of the best deliveries you'll hear today. His rhyme schemes are diverse as the intro to Snow Beach. And when the groove sax comes through, He's just brilliant. There's nothing else to say. He's filling it with acronyms rolled into internal rhyming. Just listen what I said. Acronyms, but rolled into internal rhyming. I mean, come on. The concept songs are profound. Again, these are crime rhyme MCs. The best of them are actually but the best of them are composing actually thought out songs. From NAS, right? Niggas ain't shit. To the distinctive roles applied on heat economics with China Streets and Riggs. There's Riggs again. The commentaries on lying rappers and the focus through hells and so many incredible lines are part of my religion from the opening bars. Quote, a dream only come to a nigga that's fast asleep. R.I.P. They kill my homie over old beef. I reminisce about his life while I blow smoke through my gold teeth. A treasure never fell on your lap. It's something you go seek. Niggas think too small-minded. That's why we don't speak. And that's bars right there. The off-kilter minimalist tracks by Artivist are no problem. And they're engaging. And songs like Discretion and others, and the ones I mentioned, they just have beautiful music on them. They're engaging. I love the music that these producers are given, these cinematic music that these producers are given. And this might be his last record of the year. And Rome Street's what an incredible year. And one of the best and absolutely essential. All his albums, every single work he has this year is essential if you are collecting anything in 2019, and it matches anything I've heard this decade. And real quick, let's see if I can do King Crooked and Bronze Nazareth, my brother Bronze Nazareth, Gravitas. First off, I love Bronze's drums, so I'm going to throw out some things out there, right? I think that a lot of times MCs, they usually pick Bronze's beats. He doesn't always give. He usually pick them. And the thing is that what you always get is whether they pick him or he does them himself, like the Bronze, like the Ghostface Lost Tapes remix album. His drums are incredible. I love his drum sequencing. I love the thickness of his drums. And it just always sounds good. You know what I mean? And one thing about Gravitas is that it's going to take me more listens to get to King Crooked because he sounds good, but it's overflooded with guest verses. So it's hard to see everything he was doing. But what you do get is that he has a vocal power that sounds great on first listen. He really adds on, interestingly, especially on the takes that you weren't expecting, like the Fresh from the Morgue remix on it. That was an interesting thing that Bronze did there. What Bronze did, the idea to add him to a remix where the drum pattern is near and the keys, but it's literally like a slowed down version of the original, that was on the School for the Blind Man album. A real true remix. That's literally a true remix, And the thing about Bronze's drums is that they clearly are energizing Crooked, I can still remember a drummer driver where studded drum roll propels, and Crooked is great on this. The horns that I've heard before, which I hope, the only thing I didn't care for on West Side Willie, but the drumming is so chaotic with cymbal crash splashing, drum patterning, accelerated behind the steady bass drumming. The soul always drips, lovely with Bronze the Still reprise. Bronze speaks with the soul and blues vocals, just as Primo speaks through his cuts. The dynamic gift is that Bronze is a stellar MC. To me, the most underrated lyricist I've ever witnessed. With every year that passes and hearing less of Bronze's name in lyricist lists, that underrating increases for me. A great near legend to me, and his verses here are layered, and it was beautiful to hear a track with my brother Kevlar 7, Remembered in Perfection. And he was dynamic. The guests, they're all great. The precision drums, I have to repeat it to hear King Crooked. Let me finish with one more album. Rim's Algorithms. And I'll read straight forward from here so we end this quickly. It was released today, and along came the release of the lead single, Con Job, with Matthew Ragazzino on the Doug Downs YouTube site. What bugged me out was that the YouTube site, a lot of people were hating, and the song and the album are incredible, but the first immediate batches of comments on the actual video for Con Job trashed the song and Rim's lack of morality in the drug dealing and related illicit fiscal environments to the skill all the way down to the skills of Rim and Ragazzino. Now, after the videos that are all from his Keep It Ville album posted months ago on the Dug Down site, Channel 2, you know, they have no idea who Rim is, which is pathetic. You know, it's a pathetic L for the listener if you let this travesty go on. So let me go through it quickly. This particular song had such a grimy cipher, directed and cinematized the beauty with a whole video had these ill color schemes from the big sweater Rim wore to the graph walls and hung bills. It's a beautiful looking video. It's not a rugged reality only, but the most lavish inducing out of all the songs from an album that is introspective to overwhelming dynamic with wordplay, like without a key in, I found my way ins. The sincere warmth of sadness expressed on Pain Yo, to the live smoothness of speaker play, an actual song about the love of all music, to the direction, to the better on Black Eyes, to the comedic punches thrown on Shaking My Damn Head. The pockets are worn with Rim because he glides inside them so easily. So many concepts on this long EP. It's a travesty that anyone would cliche or stereotype Rim and just be flat wrong that you couldn't hear the expert emceeing on every song here. Rim has a unique pitch, distinct cadence with an enunciation that naturally inflects in the pocket center easily and every time with varying emotional intensities. Rim is an MC's MC, and Algorithms, that's the name of this album, is a complete calculated illness though. One of the best things I've heard this year, you know what I mean? And actually, you know, it's right there with his other work, Keep It Ville. Just, you know, Rim's on a roll. And until next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, a lot more, writings to recite, and many more records to rewind and reminisce. I'm your host, Sunyas Allah, a.k.a. Skillustrator. Low, DM me for the filtered reel, essays from the Invisible Renaissance. And as always, the Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.